Busy show here on a Tuesday line in the AM. Let's kick it off in fine fashion by bringing in Dr. Dean Fanelli. He's a partner in the Intellectual Property Department of Safe Offshore, LP's Washington, D.C. office. 20 years of experience in pharmaceutical and biotechnology, IP management. And we welcome Dr. Fanelli to the airwaves for the first time. Sir, how are you? Great to have you here this early hour.
Doing well. Good morning, Jay. Thank you for having me.
It is great because I love talking cures and vaccines, and why not with two experimental coronavirus vaccines doctor was reading about yesterday, jointly developed, by the way, by German biotech firm BioNTech and U.S. Pharmaceutical giant Pfizer. They have now received the so-called fast track designation, and that from the U.S. drug regulator. That is a good thing. What's the latest here in your take?
Yeah, Jay, this is really exciting. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration granted fast track. What that means is basically it increases the communication with the FDA to speed the development of new vaccines that treat a serious condition and address an unmet medical need. The speed at which the FDA is getting these clinical trials and reviewing this data and the science is just really unbelievable. It's very reassuring, and hopefully we'll all have a vaccine quickly.
Great news. A lot of people, hear the word trial. We're not talking the courts here, but we're talking about levels as far as the safety of it all and everything else regarding medicine. Give the audience a little idea, Dr. Fanelli, as far as how long on the average do these phases kind of occur? Trials 1, second trials, third stage of a trial. We keep hearing the increments in that way. What is the average length of a trial?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jay. Typically, when we're thinking about vaccine development, you're talking 10 to 15 years of trials and data that's collected and reviewing the science. Here, if you think about it, the genome of the virus was just announced by China in January. The WHO declared a state of emergency in March, and here we are 4 months later, and we're already talking about getting into phase 3 trials. Typically, these trials take years. When we're talking, as you mentioned, there's several phases. The first phase, in this particular study with Pfizer and BioNTech, they did a phase 1-2 study, and what they did there is they're looking for dosage that would elicit an immune response as well as safety. That's the phase 1 and 2. Phase 3, what they'll be entering hopefully at the end of this month, is a very large phase. There they anticipate testing tens of thousands of individuals just to see the efficacy, to make sure that these vaccines that are in the trials actually are safe and they are eliciting this immune response in individuals.
That is very good news. Thus, that's what the fast track is all about. Talking with Dr. Dean Fanelli. So, Doctor, we've heard names in the past. We've heard the hydroxychloroquine, when mixed with the Z-Pack, has some effect. We have obviously, I think probably the number one thing is this remdesivir, which is not the end-all cure, but certainly helps in the fight for those who are severely affected. And even this dexamethasone, as well as of late, as far as being effective there. Do any of the aspects of the current trials and what we're talking about have any containment as far as those two, mainly dexamethasone and the remdesivir?
Yeah, well, certainly these drugs, they're existing drugs that are already on the market. So the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, is granting, in certain circumstances, emergency use authorization. And what that is the FDA will allow drugs to treat the vaccine where typically they're used for another treatment. Now, these drugs, remdesivir particularly, has shown particular promise. And, these aren't vaccines. These are therapeutics that hopefully would work similarly, if you think of HIV, there's no vaccine for that, but there are drugs that treat that and could help individuals that have that. Similarly here, hundreds of drugs are being tested, and as you mentioned, remdesivir is one of them that's showing very much promise in reducing the life-threatening effects of the virus and reducing the time frame that individuals that contract the virus suffer from it.
There you go. That's what it's about. I heard for such a long time studies and trials from a clinical standpoint of what's happening at Oxford University. Have you heard anything further regarding some of the vaccines being worked on at Oxford?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's Oxford is being backed by AstraZeneca and advancing an adenovirus-based vaccine candidate. They hope to be in phase 3 trials in the U.S. Shortly. But again, that's another teamwork. It's very reassuring to see all these global giants, these public-private relationships. There's just so much research and so much science that's going into this. It's very promising. And as you mentioned, Oxford, along with Pfizer and BioNTech separately, these are, in my opinion, some of the top trials that are going on and the most favorable and likely, hopefully, will be the quickest to get onto the market.
Doc, we've heard so much about COVID. It's an ever-changing deal. Daily basis, you get new information. We've always, heard stuff, even from the other side, that says, you know what? I don't think we'll ever have a vaccine. There's just too many arteries regarding COVID-19. We heard something like 15, 16 different strains of the virus. So how are you ever going to have consolidation in place by getting one vaccine? Do you concur with any of that as far as this being very tricky to contain? And how do you get one dose of medicine to fight this thing?
Yeah, another great question, and that's the billion-dollar question. These viruses, they mutate, they change, and one vaccine that may treat one strain may not treat another strain. We've heard the Dr. Fauci on the news repeatedly talking about mutations of the virus. It's a big issue. Personally, I think that we'll be able to tackle this. I'm confident we'll be able to tackle and get a vaccine by the end of this year, if not earlier next year. So although there is that concern that there are mutations and you may not find one vaccine to treat this, I suspect that we have a lot of these trials going on. There'll be multiple vaccines out there that effectively do treat the coronavirus. So I am confident that we will have a vaccine at some point later this year or next year. And I think, as I mentioned, it won't be a single vaccine from a single company. I suspect as multiple trials show promising results, we'll see multiple vaccines to treat this. So we'll tackle it from multiple angles.
So you're confident. You even said at the end of this year, they're working feverishly. Obviously, we got the minds beyond here as far as the researchers and scientists. And, a lot of people say, well, how come with all of this think tank going on right now that we can't come together already? It's a pandemic globally. We have seen, over 500,000 dead, 135,000 here in this country. 3.3 million plus testing positive with the virus. A lot of people say, well, why not already? If we are working on this night and day around the planet, why haven't we come up with something already? What do you say to those folks?
Well, like I said, typically it takes, you're talking 10 to 15 years. The fact we're going into phase 3 in less than 6 months is really unprecedented. We really, there's a risk-benefit analysis. The FDA, the premier regulatory agency when it comes to drugs in the world, they're looking at this. They have to test. There's really, if you think about where we've come so far, this is, in light speed. We're flying toward this. So you have to benefit the risks and take into consideration the risks of, you're injecting a potential vaccine in the body. You have to make sure, you don't affect the liver, the organs, and it does elicit this immune response. So although, yes, we're seeing this large amount of Americans die, and that's really tragic, we have to put that in perspective and think, where we are now is really unprecedented in the scheme of drug development. So, if we have a vaccine within 12 months, that is really, there's any drug. It's just, you're talking about just moving extremely quickly. So, yes, it's frustrating that we're sitting here. Scientists are working around the clock, and we're all confident that we are moving in the right direction. But it's an iterative process. The science has to dictate, and we don't want to rush something through that may treat the vaccine, but may also have adverse side effects.
Dean Fanelli with us. There are conspiracy theories and everything else who will say, be careful with these pharmaceutical companies, the money grab and everything else. Listen, we've all heard the theories, right, over the years, Doctor, the fact that we actually have cures in place, but they're not being processed because of dollars and cents. There's just so much money in all this. What do you say to those individuals who put out these crazy theories? You wonder, wow, lives are being lost and we're playing that chess game right now? What do you say to folks like that?
Yeah, in this case, I really don't see that. I mean, certainly there is that financial interest that these companies have. Should we develop a drug? Will it make us money? In this case, I think the humanitarian aspects override that. You can talk about conspiracy theories, but in this case, I really think there's so many scientists, thousands of scientists throughout the world checking each other. The U.S. FDA is really on top of this. I just don't see that in this case. It's just such a pressing issue. As you mentioned, worldwide, we're approaching 10 million cases, 500,000 dead throughout the world. So this is, I don't think in this instance, the financial interest would outweigh the efficacy and the drug interest of getting this on the market.
Can you look around the country right now? You see what's happening as far as the states in the Northeast. They have quelled this thing. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you look at what's happening in Arizona, Texas, and Florida. It's off the charts, 15,000 plus cases Sunday in the state of Florida. What has gone awry in those states, in your estimation, as compared to what's happening in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut? What are they doing wrong down there?
Yeah, it was very reassuring to hear yesterday that I think New York, for the first time, didn't see any deaths in a 24-hour period, so that was great news. In the South, I think you have an issue where, masks work, social distancing works, but, we have these summer months, people are getting around each other, and, until we have a vaccine, Jay, we really do have to stress that wear a mask, social distance. I mean, everyone wants to be out in the summer, everyone wants to be on the beach and go to restaurants, but, we're just not there yet. I think, because of the timing and the, I don't want to say we opened too early in the South, but, we really have to just remember, take the politics out of it, let the science dictate, and just wear your mask and try and social distance. That's where we are now. We don't have a vaccine or a therapeutic, so we just have to take these means necessary. And in my opinion, I think that's the biggest factor we're seeing in the South.
Yes or no? February 1st, 2021, I walk into my local CVS or Walgreens where I see signage regarding a shingle shot, a flu shot. Will there be a COVID-19 shot available on 2/1/21?
Yes, I believe we'll be there. It may not be available in CVS for the general public, but I'm optimistic that at least in this case, we know that individuals over 70 years old or higher risk, I think at least there'll be a vaccine out for those people. We're going to be sending our kids back to school in a few months. We want to have a vaccine as quickly as possible by next February. I'm very optimistic we'll have something.
Good stuff. Good spot for you, sir. I hope to have you back. We'll get some updates. Dr. Dean Fanelli, that's a great job and a pretty good outlook. And, of course, a partner of the Intellectual Property Department of Safe Earth Shore, and that is an office down in the nation's capital. Doctor, you're always welcome back for updates. We look forward to the next time. How's that?
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Jay.